Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. Today, we're tackling something a little different.
Yeah, a little different.
You brought us a murder mystery,
A whodunit.
a whodunit exactly, in podcast form.
Ooh, really meta.
Very, very much. So the silent
Ugh.
witness. But we're not here to just sort of rehash the plot points,
Yeah.
Like, and then this happened, and then this happened.
We did that in high school.
Right, exactly. Think of this more as like, we're putting on our detective hats, right? And
Wow.
we're really going through trying to find, what are the core elements of this story? What are the tricks that the storytellers are using? And
It makes this kind of mystery so compelling.
Exactly.
Yeah. And how they're using those tools to keep us hooked, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So we're going beyond the surface level, like the suspense and the reveals, and we're looking at the underlying structure.
Yeah.
The architecture of this story.
Right. And like, what are the motivations at play here? And how do all these, individual pieces fit together like a puzzle?
It's like a narrative dissection.
Yeah.
A deep dive into the heart of the mystery.
I love it. Okay, so let's set the stage.
Okay.
Right. So small town Eldridge.
Classic.
Classic small town mystery vibes.
Gotta have it.
We've got David Clark. He's a lawyer.
Respected member of the community.
Seems like a good guy, at least on the surface.
Oh, yeah, on the surface.
Right. And, of course, the big question.
A big one.
Who killed him?
Why?
And why?
So the podcast drops us right into the discovery of the body.
Oh, yeah.
It's the night of September 14th.
Spooky?
A little bit spooky, right?
Oh.
And he's found in his study.
Okay.
And right away there are details that kind of pique our interest.
Okay, what do we got?
So he's found with a single stab wound to the heart.
Oh, wow.
Pretty brutal, right? But here's the thing. No signs of a struggle.
Interesting.
No forced entry.
Okay.
So what does that tell us?
That seems like it must be somebody that he knew.
Right. It suggests a level of familiarity.
Yeah.
Right. Someone David trusted enough to let into his home.
Yeah, it's not a random act of violence, it seems like.
No, it feels very personal right from the start.
Very targeted. Yeah. And speaking of picking up on those clues, we're introduced to Detective Claire Matthews.
Our protagonist.
Yes, and she gets to the crime scene, and she even says, she describes the room as pristine.
Christine, yeah.
Almost too perfect. She found it eerie.
I love that word, eerie. It sets the tone, right?
Totally. It's like, it's not just a messy crime scene. It's like something's off here.
Yeah, there's something deeper going on.
There's something hidden, right?
And that's a really effective way to signal to the audience that this is going to be more than just a simple who killed him.
Right.
There are layers to this onion we're going to have to peel back.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so from there, we start meeting the suspects.
Usual suspects.
Right, so first up, we've got Margaret Clark, David's wife.
The grieving widow.
Right.
And her initial reaction is described as, visibly shaken.
Understandably.
Of course, understandably, right?
Yeah.
But her alibi is that she was asleep.
Asleep at the time of the murder classic.
So, but here's where things get a little...
A little suspicious.
Yeah, because she says, David kept things from me.
Ooh.
There were things he'd never tell me.
So she's planting that seed of doubt.
Right. What do you think when you hear that?
Well, it's like she's dropping a bomb right in the middle of the investigation.
Totally.
Because it makes us question the nature of their relationship.
Yeah.
Was it as happen as it seemed?
Right.
Were there
What if
problems?
there's something else going on?
Exactly. And it hints at this hidden life that David might have been leading.
Ooh.
Which is a classic narrative technique, right?
Yeah.
It's foreshadowing, it's telling us that things aren't what they appear to be.
Right.
And it immediately makes you start to wonder, what were those secrets?
Right. And who else was involved?
Right.
Who else knew? And how might those secrets have played a role in his death?
Totally. Okay, so that's Margaret, right? We've got this element of mystery around her now.
Absolutely.
But then we meet Ethan Miller.
David's best friend and law partner.
Right, the dynamic duo.
Seemingly.
Right.
But Ethan's alibi is that he was at a meeting.
Okay.
During the time of the murder.
Right.
But there's something about his demeanor that's a little off.
Ooh, what is it?
He's described as being defensive.
Defensive?
Yeah, a little too eager to clear his name.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And then comes the bombshell. The investigators uncover a hidden bank account.
Oh, no.
With a significant deposit made just before David's death.
Okay, that's not good.
Not a good look, right?
Not a good look for Ethan.
So now we have a potential financial motive.
Oh, yeah. Money's always a good motive.
It's a classic right greed.
Yeah.
It's a powerful motivator.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we've got Margaret, with her secrets. We've got Ethan with this like potential financial, shady stuff going on.
Getting complicated.
It's getting real complicated. And then we meet Lily Harper.
David's former assistant.
Right. And she was fired just a few weeks before the murder.
Ooh, recently fired.
Yeah. And she's described as being incredibly bitter.
Holding a grudge.
Yeah. And to make things worse, witnesses place her in the neighborhood.
On the night of the murder.
Yeah. And she was even overheard saying something about revenge.
Well, that's not suspicious at all.
Yeah, right. So on the surface, she seems like she's got a pretty clear motive, right?
Right. Wrong place, wrong time. Talking about revenge.
Seems like an open and shut case, maybe.
Well, in a good mystery, things are rarely that simple.
True.
Lily's overt anger, her very obvious motive, could be a red herring.
A distraction.
Exactly. A way to mislead us, the audience, make us think it's her, while the real killer is lurking in the shadows.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so we've got these three suspects, each with their own, potential motives.
Each with their own secrets.
Right, but then Detective Matthews, she finds something that really changes everything.
The hidden letter. Dun, dun, dun.
Yes, this is a big one.
Major plot twist.
So she finds this letter tucked away in David's desk drawer.
And it's a doozy.
It's a big one because in this letter, David's making some pretty serious accusations.
Yeah, he's naming names.
He's naming names, and he claims that Ethan has been embezzling funds from their law firm.
So that hidden bank account
starts to make a lot more sense.
Right. Suddenly it's not just about greed, it's about covering his tracks.
And trying to protect himself.
Exactly. The stakes just got a whole lot higher.
Yeah, and it gets even more complicated because David also suggests that Margaret is somehow involved.
Unknowingly involved.
Unknowingly so. Maybe those secrets she was talking about.
They're connected to Ethan's embezzlement.
Yeah, she might be caught in this web of lies without even realizing it.
So the letter really throws a wrench into everything.
It does.
We have to reassess everything we thought we knew about Ethan and Margaret.
Totally. And it's a great example of how a single piece of information
And the hidden letter.
can completely change our understanding of a situation.
It's like a puzzle piece that suddenly makes everything click into place.
But also maybe creates more questions.
Oh, for sure. It raises more questions than it answers.
Okay, so we think we're starting to get somewhere, right? We've got this letter. We're like, okay, maybe we're figuring this out.
But wait, there's more.
Of course there's more.
This is a good mystery.
Right, because a neighbor comes forward with some information.
A nosy neighbor.
The best kind of neighbor in a mystery, right?
Absolutely. They saw an unfamiliar car parked outside David's house.
On the night of the murder.
On the night of the murder.
Yeah, okay.
And guess who the car belongs to?
I don't know who.
Grace Turner. David's secret lover.
What?
Yeah, another layer of the onion.
Wow. Okay, so we've got a secret lover now.
A secret lover with a motive.
Okay.
Because she knew about the embezzlement.
Of course she did.
She knew about David's shady dealings. And she was angry.
Yeah.
Betrayed, and to top it all off, she confronted him the day he died.
Oh, boy.
So now we have this whole other dimension to the story.
This is getting juicy.
It's getting messy.
Okay, so let's recap. We've got Margaret potentially involved in something she doesn't even understand. We've got Ethan embezzling money and covering his tracks. We've got Lily wanting revenge. And now we've got Grace, the scorned lover.
It's a tangled web.
It's very tangled.
Yeah.
How does Detective Matthews even begin to untangle this?
Well, she's a good detective.
She is.
And she starts to see the connections.
Oh, okay.
The threads that link these seemingly separate motives together.
Okay.
And she comes to a startling conclusion.
What's that?
There wasn't one killer.
Multiple.
Multiple people were involved.
Wow.
Each with their own reason for wanting David dead.
So it was like a perfect storm.
It was a confluence of events.
Yeah.
Individual actions colliding with tragic consequences.
Okay, so talk to me about that. How did these individual motives actually connect to cause David's death?
So as the investigation unfolds, we learn that Ethan might have manipulated Margaret.
Oh.
Playing on her jealousy, perhaps even using those secrets that David was keeping to make her see Grace as a threat.
Wow, so Ethan's using everyone.
He's a master manipulator.
He's playing chess.
Absolutely. And then we have Lily, who's still furious about being fired.
Right.
Her motive is entirely separate.
Driven by revenge.
She wants to see David suffer.
Okay.
So you have these three individuals, each with their own personal reasons for wanting David gone.
And somehow it all comes together.
And it all culminates in this tragic event.
It's really highlighting, how unpredictable human behavior can be.
And how these seemingly isolated incidents can converge in unexpected ways.
Absolutely. Okay, so what happens?
Well, justice is served.
Oh, good.
Margaret, Ethan, and Lily, they're all arrested
Okay.
for their roles in David's death.
Wow.
The podcast ends on a somber note.
I bet.
The town of Eldridge is reeling.
Yeah.
This idyllic community has been shattered by this dark secret.
Yeah, and I mentioned this is going to have like ripple effects for a long time.
Oh, absolutely. This is a small town. Everyone knows everyone.
Right.
And the truth coming out like this is devastating.
Yeah. It's a reminder that, actions have consequences.
Big consequences.
Even if you think you're getting away with something.
Or even if you don't intend for something to happen.
Right.
The choices we make, they can have a ripple effect that we might not even anticipate.
So as we step back from this deep dive into the silent witness.
What are the big takeaways?
Yeah. What do you think are like the big things that we can learn from this story?
Well, for me, it's the dangers of secrets.
Oh, yeah.
How they can fester and grow and poison relationships.
And lead to terrible things.
Exactly.
And it also shows how, greed and jealousy and revenge.
The powerful motivators.
Right. They can drive people to do things they never thought they were capable of.
And I think what's so fascinating is how this case wasn't about a single culprit.
Right. It was about a web of interconnected motives.
It's a reminder that the truth is often complex.
Right.
And that there may not always be a simple answer.
So much to think about.
Lots to unpack.
It's true. So I guess the question for our listeners out there is, in your own lives, think about the things that are happening around you.
Yeah.
How often are we looking for a single explanation?
When the reality might be much more complicated.
Right. Are there hidden connections that we're not seeing?
The unseen threads.
The unseen threads, right, that tie everything together.
It's food for thought.
It is food for thought. It really makes you think about, how we perceive the world around us.
And how much we might be missing.
Right. We only see what's on the surface.
But there's always more beneath the surface.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the silent witness.
It's been a pleasure.
And we'll see you next time for another deep dive.
Until then, stay curious.
Stay curious.
And keep an eye out for those hidden connections.